Hello my friends, namaste. Today's topic is predicting accidents with midpoints, and we are going to be pushing the envelope of astrology in some exciting ways here. Um, so obviously what we're going to be talking about is predicting accidents, and we'll be using midpoints to do that. So let me share with you some assumptions about astrology or some thoughts about astrology before we dig into the actual formula and how we apply it. First of all, let's imagine that astrology actually works. It's possible. It works. Like there's some formula, some astrological formula that would tell you the likelihood you might get into an accident, for example, or the likelihood of any number of things. That performance in a sport might be better than at other times. That stock markets might go up or down, all kinds of different behavior. Some astrologers don't even think this is really possible at this point. They think astrology is about the meaning of our lives and really won't ever tell us anything measurable. In the last few decades, astrologers have gotten a little pessimistic about where astrology can go. Some astrologers. Well, let's suppose that astrology does work. Nobody's completely proven that it's work. There's certain research by the Gauquelins that's often quoted. I'll go over that research in a video. I don't think it's completely convincing. But anyway, so suppose there's a formula out there, we don't know what it is. So perhaps it works. Perhaps astrology works, we don't know the exact formulas. Perhaps some of the formulas, the actual variables, astrological variables at work, maybe they're a little bit surprising. I'm going to suggest one that is a little bit surprising, at least from an intuitive viewpoint, which is midpoints. Midpoints, I'll highlight that there, I think are extremely important. I'm not the only astrologer in the world. Lots of astrologers think they're very important. Midpoints are like symmetry points that might inspire your imagination. Symmetry is a very big deal in physics. And maybe it's a very big deal in astrology. Well, let me click on a chart wheel. I'll show you what I mean by midpoint. A midpoint is just a point halfway between two planets. So let's take, this is Princess Diana. Her Jupiter is at 5 degrees Aquarius. Her moon is at 25 degrees Aquarius. Where is the midpoint? 15 degrees Aquarius. In fact, this is fairly easy to compute in your head. 5 Aquarius 06 for Jupiter, 25 Aquarius 02 for the moon. The midpoint is going to be 15 Aquarius 04. So that's it. It's just the point in between. I called it a symmetry point. Maybe that sounds a little romantic or poetic, but it is. I mean, it's the point halfway in between, so it's the same distance from the midpoint to the two planets we're interested in this case Moon and Jupiter. And the opposite point, which would be 15 degrees Leo over here, not too far from Uranus, would be the midpoint, is also a midpoint. It's the opposite midpoint because it's also halfway in between the long way. So measuring the long way to the midpoint for Moon and Jupiter, that would also be a midpoint. So you have actually what is called in midpoint theory and astrology the midpoint axis. So the idea is that these midpoints, even though there's nothing there, I mean, you don't see a planet there, there's just open space, is a very powerful point. And that's what's maybe not intuitive about it. You don't see anything there, so how could it be so powerful? Your mind says, give me something real, give me some, piece of dirt or, gaseous object or something out there like Jupiter or Saturn. And here there's nothing, but even though there's nothing there, nothing physical, it's a midpoint. A lot of people who've worked with midpoints have concluded they're very powerful. Okay, so that's what a midpoint is. And so maybe one of the reasons we haven't found these formulas in astrology or shown that they work, consistently found and everybody agrees, is that maybe we just haven't put it all together in the right way. And I'm going to show you some tools that help you see if things are really work, to see what really works. And I'm going to show some evidence that the midpoints really work. And here's the formula that I made up. I just made this formula in my head. I just said, what would cause accidents? I just made up a formula, and then I applied it to a few charts, and it actually appears to work. We don't know if it works yet. We need more research. But the playing with this formula has some impressive results so far. So here's the idea. What do you think would cause an accident? Well, most astrologers, or at least many, including myself, would say Mars and Uranus. I've abbreviated the planets here with three-letter abbreviations. Mars and Uranus often inclined to accidents. Some people would also say Sun and Uranus. Maybe Saturn and Uranus also. It's kind of an uncomfortable combination. So I said to myself, and I think this is fairly reasonable if you want to consider 3 planets at a time, I thought Mars and Uranus required, always Mars and Uranus, with either Sun or Saturn. And these are what we call midpoint structures. If the Sun is conjunct the midpoint of Mars and Uranus, this would be accident prone, just theoretically, because Mars and Uranus is impatient. You have your Sun there, so Sun conjunct the Mars-Uranus midpoint. So going back to Sirius, this is Sirius 1.3. If I look at Princess Diana, her Mars is up here at 1 degree Virgo, her Uranus is over here at 23 Leo. If I go halfway in between them, that would be what, about 27 degrees of Leo, would be about halfway in between her. She has her North Node there, right close to the North Node, which happens to be 28 Leo. So at about 27 degrees Leo, also 27 Aquarius, would be the midpoint. And for prediction, we could imagine that the transiting Sun got right in between Mars and Uranus. So, the Sun's traveling around the sky once a year, and when it reaches 27 Leo, for Princess Diana, that would trigger the Mars-Uranus, and she would have transiting Mars, conjunct Mars-Uranus midpoint, and she'd be likely to get into an accident. Or, if the Sun was over here, opposition the Mars-Uranus midpoint, Sun comes around here at 27 Aquarius, it would trigger it, boom, she's accident prone. Now that may sound, I know it may sound really crazy, really, that's minor, what we say, it's not so important. Well, have we really looked? Do we really know it's minor? Are we really so completely sure that we know exactly what's most important in astrology? I have this idea there's a formula out there that none of us really know, and we need to do a lot more research and investigation to find out what it is. It's not a matter of people arguing about it, who can yell the loudest or be the best, debater about it. It's a matter of if there's a formula out there, can we actually find it? So that's the idea. Transiting Sun would come in between Mars and Uranus at that midpoint, make you accident prone. This is what's called cosmobiology, an area of astrology called cosmobiology, popularized and developed by Reinhold Everton, who got ideas from other people. Anyway, it's midpoint theory. I didn't invent it. There's a history to it. So, if transiting Sun is conjunct the natal Mars-Uranus midpoint, you'd be accident prone. Or Sun is opposite Mars-Uranus. Or you could have Saturn conjunct or opposition the Mars-Uranus midpoint. Or, how about Mars conjunct the Sun-Uranus midpoint? See, I've got Mars and Uranus with either Sun or Saturn. So if you work out all the combinations, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conjunctions and 6 oppositions. There are 12 possible midpoint combinations. They're often called midpoint structures. 12 possible midpoint structures that have Mars and Uranus with Sun or Saturn. So if you think about it, you'll conclude that these are all the possible combinations. See, all these have Mars and Uranus. Here's Mars and Uranus, Mars and Uranus, Mars and Uranus with either Sun or Saturn. So there are 12 possible combinations. So I did this very logically, very democratically. I've got a simple formula: Mars and Uranus with Sun or Saturn. So if you have a simple formula, that's in a sense better for research. If you get good results, there's logic behind it, or a simple concept. That's the simple concept. Now there's instead of 12, there's actually 24 combinations, because you can have a transiting planet to natal midpoint. You can also have a transiting midpoint to natal planet. You get that? So let's look at Princess Diana's chart. We talked about transiting Sun, right in between her Mars and Uranus, conjunct or opposition. Well, Mars and Uranus are traveling around in the sky. I could pull up a transiting chart and put that around there, but you get the idea. If Mars and Uranus could be, maybe Uranus is over here, just past the Sun, and Mars is just before the Sun, and they could be actually far apart, but that midpoint is right on the Sun. That would trigger it. So transiting midpoint to natal planet is regarded in cosmobiology, the system of midpoints, as being just as important as planet to midpoint. So we have all 12 of these times 2, because it could be transiting Sun to Mars-Uranus midpoint, or transiting Mars-Uranus midpoint to natal Sun. So you see there are 24 combinations using a very simple concept. The idea is that Mars and Uranus make you accident-prone, and you combine it with Sun or Saturn in all possible combinations, and there are 24 of them. So, can we go into our software and see just these things and get a nice visual picture of it? And what I like to do is very often is create astrosignatures. We can create a timeline format, and you'll see nice little bars going across. But if we do a graph, we get something that shows us our highs of accident proneness, which is very intuitive. So let me show you what I mean by the graph, and then I'll show you how we create it. Well, here's a graph for Princess Diana, and this red arrow points to the date on which she died in that car accident. And you see it's one of the highest peaks on this graph, and this graph is for 3 years. It may be too small and too low resolution for you to see in this tutorial video, but I started on January 1st, 1996. Here's 96. Here starts 97. And here, around here, starts 98 to the end of 98. So it's 96, 1996, 1997, 1998. And her death occurred, when did I forgot the date now? It's, well, we'll say it later. It was in, I believe, August of 97. But the exact date is this peak. So this would be showing us accident proneness, and this is why I like this graph, because if this formula happened to be accurate, we could actually predict, and we could say, Diana, this time period here, you're somewhat accident prone, this particular day very high, this day very high. Here we have 2 days very close to each other, extremely high. Here's another day. So this is actually one of the biggest peaks in the entire 3 years. Because we've got a double peak, extremely high. So the formula actually worked. That you might say, well, it was just luck. It's pretty darn good luck when I just make up a formula that would make sense logically, and it picks out the date. And I've done it with other people. I'll show you the date that John Lennon died also falls on a peak date. So most of the charts I've looked at, I've actually looked at a few, they all worked. So maybe we're on to something. So I want to show you how you can create these signatures and see what's going on. This is a fantastic way to consult your clients, to see what's going on, to just obtain a graph. You don't have to sweat it all out and labor over everything. You can create these astrosignatures, we call them, combinations of things, and just visually see them. This is pushing astrology to the 21st century. We're moving beyond the ways that we've thought about astrology in the past. We're creating dynamic, cutting-edge tools to move forward so we can visually see things, create things, evaluate them, and just obtain information very quickly and easily. So I'm going to show you how I create this graph. and then I'll show you some other graphs that I've created. Okay, so let's go in and I'll show you how you can take an idea that you might have. I'm showing you the idea that I have, which is that I suspected that these midpoints might predict accidents. You know, not every single time, but better than by random probability. I created it. I tried it on some people who died in an accident or an assault. And in Diana's case, I guess it's more of an accident. In Lennon's case, it's more of an assault. I mean, he just walked outside and tragedy occurred. So the prediction of these things could be done, I thought, with this formula. So I'll show you here. We'll go into series. I'll show you how I did it and how you can do it. So you go to forecast, and you say, give me the astro-signature forecast. That's the thing, astro-signature forecast graph. You get the graph. Astro-signature just means any combination of astrological variables you want to use. And then you have all these different things. You can put all your financial forecasts here. We have some classical electional things in here. Contests and games here. Other ones so you could be making hundreds of these and classifying them under some different categories. We'll go to main forecast astro-signatures, and Sirius and also Kepler comes with all these as well. Kepler also has this graphing capability, and all these different signatures that we give you, that we made up and are already there, and then you can customize them or create your own. And they'll make sense. For example, for business success is selected by default, just to show you what it looks like. If I go into customize the highlighted astro signature, and then you can make a formula for transit to natal, progress to natal, progress to progressed, transit to progressed, and transit to transit, just what's in the sky. That's mainly used for like electional or mundane things not relating to a person. And you can actually have different formulas if you want for each kind of forecast. So if we look at the transit to natal astro signature for business success, it lists them here. I showed this in another video also, but I'm going to show you in more detail creating it, using it, and evaluating it. And there they're listed. It says transiting Sun, trine natal Jupiter, because that's good for business success. And there's the details. There's the orb, only a 1-degree orb. And you can click on these things, and you can see them, and you can customize them, you can insert new ones. But we're going to go ahead and create a new one. So I'm going to cancel this. And that's the idea of it. And now I'm going to create one based on the idea that I had. So I'm going to click on New Search or Astro Signature, because I'm going to create our own from scratch. So I create it, and I give it a name. So I could call it our midpoint, our forecast of accidents, whatever you want to call it. And I can use business success in case I'm making a variation of it, or I could start with almost nothing, from scratch. I'll just start. I don't want to model it after anything. I'm just going to put in my own stuff. So I'll leave this selection none, and I'll say make a new astro signature, and then it tells me that my forecast can use 5 different kinds of forecasts. And then over here, when you actually run the forecast, you select which methods, forecasting methods you want to use. So you can set them up and then pick which forecasting methods you want. So it says it created it. I click, and now it tells me it's going to show me my signature, and I can customize it. So I click OK, and it says forecast method at the top is the transit to natal, and I can select these others to set those, and I start entering it. Let me see. Let me go back to my notes here. My listing of things. I want Sun, transiting Sun, conjunct Mars, Uranus, midpoint. Transiting Sun, conjunct Mars, Uranus, midpoint. So I select midpoint. I have Sun, and here it says in the transiting chart. And I say Mars, Uranus, in the natal chart. So I've got the midpoint Sun to Mars, Uranus. Transit to natal, angle is 0 degrees, and I enter my orb. I'm going to do a very small orb of just 1 degree, And I can set a strength. I'll just set the strength to 1 point. I can, if you want to weight some things more than others, I'll just give them all 1 point, just so they're all the same. And I clicked on Update Now, so it shows it to me, and it says Sun conjunct Natal, transiting Sun conjunct Natal Mars Uranus. That's it. Now I'll change this one. It put 2 of them in for me, and I'll change this one to midpoint. Sun, Mars, Uranus. I want this to be transit to natal. That's good. And I want opposition. So I just fill all this in. And I'll give it a 1 degree orb, 1 degree orb. I'll click on Update Now so I can see it. And there it is. So I would just insert, there's all of these guys. I have 24 of them. So it'll take a little while. Click on Insert New Item. And now I want, if I go to, I'll do it in the order of my list. I could do it the other way around if I want, the transiting to natal. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll do the transiting midpoint to natal. So now I'll say I want the Sun to be the natal chart and the Mars-Uranus to be the transiting chart. I'll make this 0. I don't even have to click Update Now. I'll just click, because it'll just update it when I click Insert New Item. It says it inserted it. And now I'll change this to 180 degrees. And just to see it here, I'll click Update Now. It puts these asterisks showing that these are ones that I've changed. And I can review what I've done so far. Transiting Sun, conjunct natal Mars-Uranus midpoint. Transiting Sun, opposition natal Mars-Uranus midpoint. Transiting Mars-Uranus, conjunct natal Sun. Transiting Mars-Uranus, opposite natal Sun. So I got 4 down, 4 done, and 20 to go. So I'll just do a few more. I'm not going to do all 24. It'll bore you to death, but you've got the idea. And I'll look at my list so I don't, if I was really doing this, so I wouldn't get confused. Now I'll do my Saturn to Mars-Uranus. The nice thing is that by entering these individually, you have complete control over it. So I'll insert another item. I want transit to natal Saturn to Mars-Uranus conjunction. And I'll insert a new item. It'll update that automatically. And I'll make opposition 180. And I'll just do a few more. I'll insert a new item. Now I want this to be the natal, this to be the transit, and this would be 0. I'm going to stop here. I'm probably driving you nuts. Well, let me do one more. I'll just do the last one. Insert a new item. I might have, I think I'm up to opposition. Whoops. 180. Update now. Now I think I've got the first 8. What did I do? I made a mistake here. This one was supposed to be... Oh no, that's right. That's right. Saturn conjunct Mars-Uranus midpoint, Saturn opposition Mars-Uranus midpoint, Mars-Uranus conjunct Saturn, Mars-Uranus opposite natal Saturn. So I think I got that in order. So you got the idea. You would just enter all those. Well, these have 10 points. I wanted to give them all 1 point. Well, if I'm lazy, I'll just say, hey, I'm too lazy. I'll just make these all 10 points instead. Give them all the same weight, the same strength. You could call it strength or weight. If I give one aspect more strength, it's going to cause the graph to go up more if I think one is more important than another. But I'm going to use a simple formula and assume they're all equally strong. So you have the idea. You can just create a formula. You can come and customize a formula, any formula you want, using aspects, midpoints, declination, the speed of a planet, the sign it's in, the house it's in. You can do 3 and 4 planet combinations, harmonic signs, midpoint to midpoint, degrees and dignity, all kinds of stuff. There's even things you can do outside the user interface, where this is saved in a text file, and you can use other things that aren't listed here. But it's a pretty thorough list of the things we use in astrology, and you create your signature. And I can click on Save Changes, and I have it. I'll click on Save Changes, and there we go. And now I got my forecast. Our forecast of accidents. But you know what? I already created one before the before I started doing this video, and it's over here. I'll uncheck that. And here it is, accident proneness with midpoints. This is where I did exactly what I just showed you, but I took the time to do all 24 of them. And I'll go into Customize and view the transit to Natal, and there they are with the 1 point. Exactly what I just showed you, except I entered all 24 because I didn't want to bore you for 10 minutes or whatever it takes, or 5 minutes to enter all those things. So there they are. I create the astro signature. Now you can see if your brilliant idea actually works. I'll just cancel out of that. I didn't change anything. And we can run our forecast. And if we run it, I'll run it in a second, but I'll show you the results again. If I run it for 3 years, there's the graph. And it runs a little bit slowly, which is why I'm not running it right in front of you, because you'll see it takes a little bit of time to run, especially if you do 3 years. And now here you might say zoom in to the year of 1997, and there's that double peak. Remember that double peak? Let me show you. This is that double peak right here, but now I'm just showing this part of the graph, 1997. And there it is, that same double peak. We're just zooming in to see it closer. And I could see it was, what was it? It was August 20. Well, it'll become clear. I'm going to zoom in even more. And I'm going to zoom in here. This is the entire year of 97. And now I run it for July through the end of the year, 97. So this is the half a year. And we see it's one of the high peaks. And I did one more where I ran this for 2 months, August and September. And now I can see the date is August 31st, because it says August 30 here, and September 5th. This is one more day, it's August 31st. Well, August 31st, 1997 was the day of her accident and death. So, or the day of the accident. I guess she died pretty quickly. I don't remember the full story, but anyway, there it is. August 27th is the day, and I'll run this now so you can see it run. I'll run it for those 2 months, August and September 97. So I'll go back to Sirius and run this starting August 1st, 1997 through, what would that be, October 1st, 1997, August, September, for 2 months. I'm only checking, I can check as many of these as I like. I'm checking just the accident proneness, and I'll click on Begin Analysis. And this is what I mean by takes a little while to run. I'm only running 2 months, and it takes a few seconds per month to run. And there it is, the same exact, slide this over into the window that I've captured for this. There it is, the same exact graph I just showed you that I ran before. There it is, same exact thing. I just ran it, and there it is. So you create the astro signature, and sure enough, one of the biggest peaks over 3 years, actually, is right there. Now, what's also wonderful, let me bring this guy over here. There are several windows open simultaneously, and these had gone off your area you're looking at. These are open at the same time, and I can go down to August 31st on this list and click on it, and then it shows me the details. So this is a nice quick list, and I can now see only the details for that day. And it tells me, this is amazing, that on August 31st, when the accident happened, transiting Mars was conjunct Saturn-Uranus midpoint 15-minute orb. Extremely close. And transiting Uranus was opposite the Sun-Mars midpoint 10-minute orb. And this is amazing because I picked these because they should work logically. 2 of those 24 possible things were occurring on that day and very close to being exact. And it gave me a total of 1.58 midpoint, 1.58 points, where I'm only giving 1 point when an aspect is exact. What it does is it gives more points as the aspect becomes exact. As Mars approaches that conjunction, the midpoint, you get the full 1 point. As it goes out to the maximum orb of 1 degree, it goes down. So you're getting more points the stronger it is. And that's why the graph, if we click on this window of the graph, this is these midpoint structures getting stronger and stronger. As they approach no orb, they reach their peak and go down. There's actually two of them becoming exact right around the same time, which is extremely unusual, as we saw in the graph for 3 years. And there's the accident. I really think that this is fantastic technology because you can create a formula. You can see the graph. We're going to see in future videos with financial forecasting, we can actually compare to actual prices or other performance values and see the relationship and how well it correlates. So, but anyway, that's for a future video. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But here we are. We see exactly what's going on. We can see what the influences are. So if you're using this for consulting, then you can think about exactly what Mars at Saturn Uranus means, and you've got all that information, and you've got this nice list to find what you want. So there you go. This is cutting edge 21st century tools to make your astrological consulting, your astrological analysis fast and sharp and useful and visual, so you can see what's going on and evaluate things. I'll show you one more example. We'll go back to this screen here, and we'll return to the previous menu. We'll call up John Lennon. And I'll show you the results that I already ran for John Lennon in my presentation here. And here's John Lennon for 1980, for 1 year. And he doesn't have any gradual build-up things from slow transits. He's only got fast transits over this year. So you get these quick peaks. And he's got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 peaks. And one of those peaks, which means one of these 24 midpoint structures, occurs again on the day of tragedy for him. So two tragedies of two famous people, both showing peaks. This one may be less impressive than the one for Diana because you might say, well, why didn't it happen on this day or this day? Well, if we can, we don't know. We just made one formula, but if we can narrow things down and actually find things working, this is a huge step. And we've just done one simple formula based on a logical idea of what we would expect, and there it goes, and it shows it to us. And I've got zoom in, just one zoom of this. I'm calling it zoom, shorter time period. You're not actually zooming, just selecting a shorter time period. And this is for the months of November, December. I ran it for 2 months. And there you see the peak exactly on the day of the peak when the aspect is becoming exact. This is December 8th, 1980. Is the day of his tragedy and death. And there it is, exact. And I'll run this. We'll do John Lennon, and we'll go to Forecast, Astro Signature Forecast, Main Signatures. I'll uncheck the default selection of business. I'll select the accident proneness with midpoints. I'll say run this for November 1st. What year was that? November for December 1980. So I'll run it for November 1st, 1980 for 2 months to January 1st, 1981. Right, I think that's 2 months, if I'm thinking about this correctly. I'll click on Begin Analysis, and we'll see that graph and this. So there's 1 month calculated. Now it's calculating the second month of December, and there it is. Let me drag this onto your area you're looking at, and there it is, December 8th. This is the same graph we just looked at, and there's the peak. And now I can look at the other window that's open that shows me the details, and this other window that's also open, and I can go down to December 8th, click on it, and boink, I can immediately see that it's transiting Mars-Saturn midpoint opposite natal Uranus, 8-minute orb at that time of day. So it was exact on the day that assassination occurred. And this is midpoint to planet. With Diana, it was transiting planet to midpoint. So fortunately, my logic must have been very good or very lucky, because I said we should do planet to midpoint, midpoint to planet. These theories that developed out of cosmobiology seem to really work. And this is maybe why we haven't been seeing astrology work so consistently that we could demonstrate that it works. As astrologers, you know it works, but sometimes the transits happen, the event isn't there, we can't explain things, and maybe we just have to get our formulas better. And this appears to be on the track of having a formula that works. So the cosmobiologists who developed this midpoint idea seem to really be onto something. There it is, Mars, Saturn, opposite natal year. It's fantastic. It's just amazing how this works. These are the first two charts I did using this idea, and I haven't done very many others. I've done a few others when I found out when somebody had a major accident, and it also worked. So it really is exciting. So there's how you can create a signature. You can create graphs. You can analyze and give them to clients. It's just fantastic. I'm going to show you one more thing. Whoops, I'm up at 36 minutes. I need to end this. I like to only go about a half hour. But one more thing. Let me get back here. And I'll just show you that you can select more than one signature. Let's say I want to do business success. I'll do this real quick. I'm just going to run a month. Well, it's taking me longer to type it. I'll run the month of December 1980. And I'll do business success and emotional sensitivity. And, well, that's enough. I could select a bunch of these things, but I'll just select those three. Or instead of emotional sensitivity, I'll select physical sensitivity. That might be not good for performance. So I'll click on Begin Analysis, and I'll show you that you can select actually up to 10 forecasts at one time. So it calculates one, and you see the hourglass is still going because it's calculating. There's a second one, and now it's doing the third one. And it tells me that business success is green. So in December 1980, John Lennon would have great business success right around December 9th and 10th. It says 9th and 10th here. I don't know if you can read it, but from about the 8th through the 11th, peaking on the 9th and 10th, business success. The red is physical sensitivity. And I can explain what that means, and we can look at the aspects, but you got the idea. It's probably Neptune, Sun stuff, Neptune, Mars. You're very sensitive physically. This is telling things to, be careful about your health and so on. December 17, 18. And here is the light blue is the accident proneness peaking on December 8th. And you may say, well, gee, that doesn't peak as high as these two, but you can't, they're not scaled the same way, because I only gave 1 point to these, and I only have 24 things. So if you get up to a point that's really high using this, and this has more. So you can't compare the heights against each other. You just compare your line to yourself. December 8th is the most accident-prone date for John Lennon. The 8th and 9th, right in, 7th through 9th, right in here, peaking on the 8th. But he actually had good business success right around the same time. And I found this to be true, that one thing does not cancel another. You can have business success and have a tragedy at the same time. That's the observations I've made. Some astrologers believe in things canceling each other, but I haven't seen that. Okay, well anyway, I'm done. I'm up to 38 minutes. I'm going to 40 minutes. It was a long video. I like to keep them to a half hour. You've got it. You see how this works. Very exciting stuff. Hopefully this gets you interested in midpoints, gets you interested in astro signature forecast. Fantastic tool to use to speed up your analysis, to see what the highs and lows are. Clients love it. It speaks to them. You'll love it. Great stuff. Okay. Thank you very much. I will sign off here. Thank you for listening. Take care. God bless. Namaste.